From that 75 Marshall lead yesterday, back to this 75 Champ. I've got a bag of all the stuff I took out. This is not all this stuff, I'll show you why. So this is the old rectifier socket, which has been changed out because it was very loose and wiggly. Got a new one in there, nice phenolic. And this is the old output tube socket, which both was chipped away and damaged here and had scorching in this area. This had seen things, man. This had seen things. So those are both gone. And it's got the Hammond with the dual primaries, more on that to come, installed. And all the low-end woes have gone away. I don't think I pointed it out in the previous video specifically, but a previous tech had changed out the RCA speaker plug for a 1/4 inch. They'd used a non-shunting. I put a new Switchcraft shunting jack in there. So when nothing's plugged in, there is a load. The amp came in with this not very good Sovtech 5Y3, which has a rattle to it. You can hear it acoustically, and I don't trust that when tapped. It should not make any sounds like that. These things never have the right voltage. They don't last. They tend to arc. So instead, I got a new old stock GE 5Y3, which is an actual 5Y3 GT, and it will not have any of those issues. And it was not very expensive, and it makes a big difference when the thing always works. Down here you can see I've added a terminal strip, which lets me have the neutral tied directly to the primary. The hot goes to the fuse, from the fuse to the other terminal, from the fuse to the power switch, from the power switch to the other terminal, which has the other primary. That way I don't have a lot of wires trying to fit in a small opening here on the power switch. I'm using both sides of the power switch for better current rating. And down at this end, you may or may not be able to see that I've replaced all of the old white wire and the old black wire with some new wire, because the old wire was just crappy. It was microphonic. It was dirty. It had, creeping death at each end. The old wire just doesn't hold up. This is very nice stuff. It's funny to me. My buddy Brad did the same thing to a 70s twin the other day, as I've done here. We did not speak to each other about it. We both instinctively just made them better while retaining the aesthetic of the original. It's a lot easier, certainly, to do in a Champ than a twin, but the payoff is the same in both cases. And here you can see the new output transformer wiring. So the blue primary is the 8K primary. The red there goes to the HT supply. This brown is going to an unused, unconnected pin on the rectifier socket. This is the 5K primary. I tried each. The output of the amp was a lot more with 8K, so that's what's wired in for right now. And I left the length long enough that when the owner gets here, I can swap them back and forth and let him play the amp. I don't like doing high voltage switching, and it's not the kind of thing that really matters in a YouTube video. I upload stuff at 4K with the least amount of YouTube compression, but it's still an imperfect presentation of what the amp feels like and sounds like. So when the owner comes to pick this up, I'll spend the time to move these wires back and forth, let him try each. I like the 8K. He might like the 5K. It's going to have a lot less output, more compression. This yellow wire is the 4K secondary. The 4 ohm output secondary, and that is going to the negative feedback tap. The green wire here is the 8 ohm secondary. That is going to the output jack. You can see it. The jack is a shunting jack to ground when nothing's plugged in. And the owner is going to, we chose to use 8 ohm tap because the owner's going to get an 8 ohm speaker for the new cab for this thing. But this way he can also use his existing other cabs, most of which are 8 or 16 ohms with this, because 4 ohms is kind of very specific. You'll see things labeled as 3.2 ohms and 3.6 ohms for Champs. It's almost nominal. There's no difference between a 3.2 ohm and a 4 ohm tap in reality. It's just what frequency you measure it at. They're interchangeable. So this, having the 4 ohm going to negative feedback, makes this circuit behave the way it's supposed to. Let's make one more change before we let you hear this thing. All right, I've got a little contraption hooked up to the mids resistor. The mids resistor in a Champ is a 15K. It's a 6.8K in every other Fender of the period that had a non-adjustable, no mids pot, aside from the basement. Basement had a different value on the normal channel. But this kind of makes the thing very mid-focused and a little congested. Now, I'm not going to make any permanent change to this. When the owner comes, I'm going to let him audition some different values like you're about to hear here. What I'm going to show you here is the stock 15K, and then I've got another 15K set up to be in parallel across it, put it at about 7.5K, which is close to the 6.8K you get from a deluxe reverb. He could go even smaller. He could go down to like 1 to 3K, which is the range you'd find most players using in a twin reverb or the vibrato channel of a super reverb. Or he may love it with a 15K, but when he comes to pick the amp up, he can make that decision for himself. And either way, I won't take out the original resistor. I would just put another one in parallel. Anyway, let's start with the amp in stock form with its 15K. That sounds nice. Let's put the 15K in parallel. So you can hear it's not a subtle difference. It makes the entire tone stack more responsive. The trade-off there, of course, is that you lose a little bit of gain. That's just the way of things. And I didn't adjust the knobs, the bass and treble very much here. Let me turn the treble down and the bass up now that I've got that resistor in place. So the tone stack will be doing a little bit more. So you can hear, decreasing the value of that mids resistor makes the tone stack, the bass and treble controls a little more effective, but it does change the entire character of the amp. So that's the decision I'm going to leave in the hands of the owner. It is certainly an easy thing to change, but just one part makes a huge difference in the sound of the amp. Now, I was hot swapping this because I was dealing with very low voltage AC signal, not big DC signal. I don't want to play around with putting the plate on a switch. I mean, I could, but it's just a lot of work, and I don't think that you guys would hear it in the video. The owner will hear it in person. When the owner comes to pick this up, when the new cab and speaker arrive, that's when we'll do that test. Until then, I'm very happy with how this amp is sounding. The noise floor is almost non-existent, and it has just enough grit and crunch with single coils to really be pleasing. And with humbuckers, I expect it'll do that thing you see in that Bonamassa video. I think he used a vibro champ for that. I'd have to have a player who plays like Joe. I can't do it, but I mean, I can. My chords sound like his chords, so I got that going for me, which is pathetic. Anyway, thanks for watching.